Politics, a Dvar Torah for Parashat Korach. I'd like to invite you to join me for a short session of guided imagery. You're in the market, trying not to repeat last week's mistake of buying the wrong brand of soy milk for your wife. When you hear a commotion, you turn around, and there is the Prime Minister, who, rumor has it, has been building up some opposition lately. Across the street from him is an ever-growing crowd who keep on asking him what seems to be reasonable questions that you're genuinely interested in hearing the answers to. But instead of answering, the Prime Minister falls on his face. What are your thoughts about your leader now? Everything I just described happens in this week's Parsha. Well, except for maybe the soy milk. I mean, women must have been more reasonable in the past, right? No? Whatever. Korach comes with what seems to be reasonable claims, and instead of answering, Moshe prostrates himself? I mean, come on. Now, I will point out that many of the commentators discuss whether or not these claims were reasonable. Okay, so they mostly discuss why they weren't reasonable. And although they give some interesting answers, this is not what we're going to focus on this week. To me, Moshe's response is much more fascinating. I'll also note that face-falling is much more common in biblical times than it is today, and Moshe himself has done this on more than one occasion. But even so, the commentators do have what to say about it. Rashi's explanation needs some, explaining. According to Rashi, what caused Moshe to fall on his face was the machloket, i.e. the division or dispute, maybe rebellion, since this was already the fourth offense. What isn't clear from Rashi, there are two different versions, is whether or not this reaction was voluntary. Was it that he no longer found the strength to stand up to them, which could be learned from the added words rafu yadav, he felt himself powerless? Or was it that, while looking upon the situation, he decided that this time they deserved whatever punishment came their way? Intervening was wrong or futile. And although the Midrash Haggadah takes the involuntary approach, saying Moshe fell back in fear, most commentators disagree. Rav Sadia Gaon says Moshe prostrated himself in order to enter a state of prophecy. Rasag's compiler, Rav Yosef Kapach, thinks the need for prophecy rode from wanting to see into the future and discover what would happen to the sinners. But the reason could be similar to Rashbam's, who said that he sought divine guidance in prayer, searching for the proper response to the accusations. Rabbeinu Bachya ben Asher adds that the prayer might have been Nefilat Apayim, the same prayer we say during Tachanun, when we lay our face on our arm, which the Talmud teaches is a potent prayer that could have dire consequences on those who offended the one praying, as learned from the story of Rabbi Eliezer, who inadvertently brought upon the untimely demise of Rabban Gamliel, as described in Masechet Baba Metzia. What these three explanations have in common is that falling on one's face is a spiritual or religious action. Moshe was either praying or prophesying, but some commentators think that this was the correct practical or political response as well. According to Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, Moshe's response was the exact opposite of what he was being accused of. When asked, why are you raising yourself above Hashem's congregation, the proper response was showing that not only was he not raising himself above, he was doing all within his power to stay as low as possible. Shadal says that Moshe was beseeching the people to allow him to finish speaking and not interrupt him in the middle. He was bowing down to the people as a form of request, just as Avraham did to his guests many, many years before him. And Rashar Hirsch explains the political and psychological sense in Moshe's response. Upon listening to Korach's claim, Moshe heard the words that weren't being said. Korach didn't really want to hear why Moshe is lording it over the Israeli people. Korach was jealous because he wasn't chosen for any important role. Since that was what was happening, there was nothing Moshe could answer that would be accepted by anyone. This being the case, Moshe didn't attempt to answer. Instead, he effectively took himself out of the picture and beseeched Hashem to respond to Korach's accusations. So next time you bring home the wrong brand of soy milk, you might want to try falling on your face as well. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and pass it on to someone else who might enjoy it as well. I am Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.